Okay, so this is more 2.1 homework, and this is number 3. And in number 3 starts the sections that they're asking about domain and range. So number 3 asks us to determine the domain and range of the function. And so the domain and range of the function will be a little different from increasing, decreasing constant. So when you're talking about domain, you're only talking about your x-axis from negative infinity to positive infinity, much like the increasing, decreasing constant. So x-axis is only for domain, and the range is going to be your y-axis. And remember, it goes from negative infinity at the bottom to positive infinity at the top, and that is your y-axis. So for domain, I only look from left to right. Now, if there's no breaks, as long as you include every single point on that x-axis, there you don't have to break up your intervals. So I start all the way at the left side, and what is the first x-axis on my function? Well, this is the first part of our function, and it starts at -6. If you wanted to count it, you could see that there's -6, but I went ahead and put the ordered pair -6, -4. So -6 is the first point on my function. Now, since it's a closed dot, it's going to be a bracket at -6. If it was an open dot, it would be a parentheses at -6. And notice that it does not stop the function. The line continues over the entire function, and it stops here at 7, 1. So that means that my domain is going to run from -6 all the way to +7. And +7 also has a closed dot, so that will also be a bracket. So the domain, you're going from left to right. You don't care where it's increasing, decreasing, or constant. You're just seeing what part of the graph actually contains the lines of the function. So now you want to go from down to up on your range part. So when you're talking about range, you're talking about your y-axis. So I start from down because that's your negative infinity. You always want to start from smallest to largest. So the first number on my y-axis that's part of the function is right here at -4. So at -4, that's where my range starts, and it goes all the way up to a +3. That's the highest part of that function. So +3 will be the highest part, -4 is the lowest part. So both parts also have closed dots or a line itself. So they are going to be brackets. So let's see if we can do this one real quick. This one's a little bit tougher. So again, we're determining the domain and range. So let's look all the way at the left side, because remember, you want to start at the left side for your domain and go to the right because it's negative infinity to positive infinity. And for the range, you want to go from negative infinity to positive infinity that way. So domain first, so I have -8 is the first x value on my domain. So -8 is as far to the left as I can go. And then notice that it stops, and it has a circle at -3. But notice down here at -3, it has a closed dot. So that means that it really didn't stop, because I still have a -3 that's closed. So that is it consists of that -3 at some point. This means it's not defined, but here it is. So from -8 to -3, it wasn't defined here, but it is here, so it still counts. And I go all the way to a -1. Now notice there is a break in the line between -1 and 1, and there's nothing else on this graph that is shaded or connected in any way that will have a dot from -1 to 1. So there's no line anywhere that connects -1 to 1. So that means my domain is going to go from -8 all the way to -1. And since I had a closed dot on this end and a closed dot on that end, I am going to have brackets. Then when I picked up at +1, notice that it continues without breaks to 5. So +1 to 5, and they both have closed dots as well. So they will also have brackets. For my range, I am going from down to up. Now this one is a little harder for a lot of students to see. So -4 is the lowest part on my function. So when I go up, even though there's a lot of craziness here, remember your domain is your x coordinates. Your range is your y coordinates. So you want to make sure that every y coordinate in between -4 and the highest point is being represented. So all these crazy breaks doesn't really matter because there is a number in between +3 and +4 right here. There is same thing here because that stopped at 3. There are filled in lines from 4 to 7 on this side. So that means that the lowest y value is -4 and it continues all the way up to a height of 7 for your range. So -4 to 7 will be all the parts of my range, and they will be brackets on both ends because there are closed dots on both ends. So that one's probably the hardest one, but just remember you're trying to figure out what x values for your domain and what y values for your range. And if everything is accounted for, you don't have to leave anything out. Kind of like what we did here and then what we did for the range.